Australia's low coronavirus numbers have made us the envy of the world. And haven't we let everyone know it?
You have made Australia the envy of the world.
The envy of the world.
The envy of most countries in the world today.
Take that, world. We're number one. We're number one. We were also told our vaccination program would be similarly world-beating.
Australians will be in the leading pack of the world, getting Australia at the front of the pack when it comes to vaccines.
And we'd even have enough doses for our Pacific neighbours.
Australia has secured an additional 10 million Pfizer doses. That brings to now 150 million doses.
Seems excessive, but you needed to buy 150 million to get the free shipping. In February, the first Australian was vaccinated.
Australia's COVID-19 vaccination program is officially underway, but the launch didn't quite go to plan. When Prime Minister Scott Morrison encouraged her to make a V for vaccine sign, she actually made a somewhat different gesture, much to the amusement of the medical staff. Well, who knows, maybe she meant it.
She did mean it. Up yours, world! We're number one! We're number one! Unfortunately, Australia's vaccine program started with a hiccup and went downhill from there. We're currently 76th in the world, far behind even our revised targets. So why the hold-up? Well, Scott Morrison has thoroughly washed his hands of responsibility.
The challenges Australia has been a supply problem. It's pure and simple. There was over 3 million doses from overseas that were contracted that never came.
As the old saying goes, the buck stops, somewhere in Europe. But it's not just Europe. We've also been waiting on Australian-made vaccines to ramp up.
Now, as CSL are ramping up their production, I think it's very important that people understand that the fill and finish process doesn't involve the little vial coming off the production line and it goes straight to a courier and goes to the GP or the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, for one, ScoMo has to pick up every vial and get a photo with it. But supply isn't the only issue. After watching state premiers get all the glory for smashing COVID last year, the federal government has been keen to control the vaccination program and take the credit. Firstly, as late as mid-March, they were still telling us we had far more doses than we needed.
There's enough vaccine for every Australian 3 times over.
Secondly, while it's one thing to buy the vaccine, it's another to get it into people's arms.
Doses arriving without needles, vials dropped at homes without staff to administer it, 75 elderly people sat inside ready to be jabbed.
Defence Force personnel will take charge of Australia's aged care vaccine rollout following a week of repeated bungles.
At least it sets a good precedent. If you cancel an appointment with Grandma, she can call in the army. Thirdly, instead of using state-run mass vaccination centres, the government decided to send doses directly to hundreds of GP clinics. How many doses? It's a surprise.
It's important that we get as many GPs involved as possible, and they're receiving anywhere between 50 and 2,000 doses.
So somewhere between all and shitloads. That is quite a range. I guess it'll be okay, provided there's been plenty of communication.
Definitely feels like communication has been lacking.
There's been very little communication.
Well, as long as someone doesn't tell the whole country that bookings commence tomorrow.
Bookings commence tomorrow.
What?
Bookings commence tomorrow.
So the government is sending GPs wildly varying numbers of doses with hardly any warnings and expecting them to deliver a vaccination program. And I assume that's going well?
GP clinics have been inundated by calls from elderly patients as thousands rush to book themselves in for the coronavirus vaccine.
GP Barbara Innes has a fridge, waiting room and hundreds of patients, but her Pakenham clinic won't receive the first vaccines until next week, and then it'll be just 50 doses.
On the left is a new vaccination fridge in anticipation for our COVID-19 vaccinations.
It's not full at the moment.
It's currently got plenty of space.
It's been terrible for doctors, but a real shot in the arm for the fridge industry. And you'd think after all these problems, the government would have learned not to make any new promises. But straight after the AstraZeneca decision...
The Australian government has secured overnight an additional 20 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, which means 40 million Pfizer vaccines in Australia in 2021.
40 million doses. I'm going to book a cruise. The government has been itching to take credit for the vaccination program, but now won't take responsibility for the problems. And personally, I'm tired of waiting, so I've manufactured my own vaccine. The Pickering Prickening. It's 100% effective with only one known side effect. These aren't gloves.